How some people can read minds from just a look. A story that starts with a shocking truth. In a big city, there was an ordinary young man living a completely normal life. Nothing special about him. No wealth, no fame, no obvious talent. But there was one strange thing about him. He could notice things that others completely missed. Small details, eye movement, hand gestures, posture changes. At first, he didn't understand why he could see these things so clearly, but over time, he started noticing something strange. Every person who lies leaves a trace, not in words, not in tone, but in small, unconscious movements that no one pays attention to. One day, something unusual happened. He was sitting in a small cafe, quietly observing people like he always did. A man entered the place, sat at a table across the room, ordered only a coffee, but something felt off. The young man noticed it immediately. The man was not comfortable. His fingers were tapping the table too fast. His eyes kept scanning the room for no reason. A few minutes later, another person entered, sat next to him, and started talking. The young man couldn't hear the words clearly, but he didn't need to. He was watching something else. And then it happened. The man's entire behavior changed. A quick smile appeared, but it didn't feel natural. His eyes dropped for a moment. His hand movements slowed down suddenly. And in that moment, a thought appeared in the young man's mind. This man is not telling the full truth. After that moment, he decided to test it. He started observing everyone around him, friends, family, strangers on the street. Every normal conversation became something different. He wasn't listening to words anymore. He was watching behavior. And slowly, he discovered something shocking. Some people say, "I'm fine," while their shoulders are tight and heavy. Some laugh, but their eyes stay completely still. Some answer too quickly, like they are escaping the question, and with time, he stopped seeing people the same way. He started seeing what was behind their words. But something strange began to happen. When you understand too much, life becomes different. He started feeling like he could no longer trust words easily. Even simple sentences started to feel layered with hidden meaning. One day, his closest friend said, "I'm okay. Everything is fine." But his body was saying something completely different. His voice was slightly lower than usual. His eyes couldn't hold contact. His hands kept moving without control. And suddenly, a question formed in his mind. Is this ability a gift or a burden? One night he decided to push himself further. He went to a crowded place, a large cafe filled with strangers, and he just sat there silently. This time, he wasn't looking for one signal. He was looking for the full picture, how each person sits, how they breathe, how they react to silence, how they interact without words. After just 1 hour, he started seeing something new. Every person seemed to carry a hidden story on their body. But then, something unexpected happened. In the middle of the crowd, he noticed someone different, completely different from everyone else. No stress, no nervous movement, no hesitation, just calm, too calm, almost unnatural, as if this person knew he was being watched. He tried to stay calm and act natural, but his attention kept returning to that person. The man was sitting alone at a corner table. No phone, no coffee movement, no distractions, just sitting, perfectly still. But it wasn't normal stillness. It felt controlled. like every small movement had been removed on purpose. The young man started observing carefully again. He checked the usual signs he had learned. Eyes, no obvious emotion. Hands, perfectly placed on the table, not tense, not relaxed, just fixed. Breathing, barely noticeable. And that's when something felt wrong, because every normal human shows something. Even calm people show microsignals. But this person showed almost nothing. After a few minutes, a waiter approached the table. The waiter said something simple. "Do you need anything else?" The man answered calmly, "No, I'm fine." But the young observer caught it instantly. There was a tiny delay before the answer. Not long, maybe half a second, but enough. And then something even stranger happened. The moment the waiter left, the man's eyes shifted slightly toward the young observer. Not a full look, just a fraction of a second. But it felt intentional, as if he knew exactly where attention was directed. The young man suddenly felt something new. It wasn't fear, it was awareness. Like when you realize someone else is also paying attention to you at the same time. He looked away for a moment, then looked back slowly. The man was still there, still calm, still motionless. But now, it felt different. The atmosphere itself felt heavier, like the room had become smaller. The young observer started questioning everything he had learned, because this person did not follow any normal behavioral pattern. No stress signals, no nervous habits, no unconscious movements. It was like he was controlling every micro-expression manually. But that should be impossible. Humans don't think about every movement. So, what was this? Training? Experience? Or something else entirely? The young man decided to test something. He slowly leaned back in his chair, then crossed his arms, and looked away for a few seconds. A simple distraction test. When he looked back, the man was already looking at him, directly. Not by accident, not by scanning, but focused. The moment their eyes met, something changed in the atmosphere. It was not dramatic. No sudden movement, no words. But the silence between them became heavier. The young observer slowly realized something uncomfortable. He was no longer just watching people. He was part of what was happening. The man in the corner did not move, but the presence felt different now, like a line had been crossed without anyone noticing when. The young man decided to break the tension. He stood up calmly and walked toward the counter, pretending to order something. But his real focus was elsewhere. He positioned himself where he could still see the man in the corner. He started observing again, but now more carefully than before, trying to find something, anything, that would explain what he was feeling. But there was still nothing. No obvious emotion, no reaction, no change, just control. Too much control. After a few seconds, the man in the corner finally moved. He slowly reached for a small cup on the table, took a sip, and placed it back down with complete precision. No hesitation, no wasted motion. Then he spoke. Not loudly, just enough for the young man to hear. "You're looking too hard." The words were simple, but they didn't feel random. They felt directed. For a moment, the young observer froze, not because of fear, but because of realization. He had been careful. He had not made any obvious approach. He had not spoken. He had not revealed intention. Yet the man knew, or at least, he responded as if he did. The young man slowly turned his head slightly, trying to stay calm. But inside, questions started forming rapidly. How long had he been noticed? From the beginning? Or just now? Everything he had learned about reading people started to feel unstable, because in every system he studied before, there were patterns. Nervousness shows truth. Eye movement reveals intention. Body language leaks emotion. But this man did not leak anything. Instead, he seemed to create uncertainty in others, like he was not being read, but was affecting the reader. The young observer returned to his seat slowly. But something had changed inside him. He was no longer confident in his observations. Every detail now felt questionable. Was that movement real? Was that reaction intentional? Was he being guided into misunderstanding? For the first time, he felt the same confusion he used to see in others, and that realization alone was unsettling, because it meant one thing: the system had turned back on him. The young observer stayed in his seat, trying to regain control of his thoughts. But it was no longer easy. Every sound in the cafe felt sharper. Every movement around him felt intentional. Even people who had nothing to do with him suddenly felt like they were part of something he couldn't understand. And still, the man in the corner remained the same, unmoved, unbothered, unreachable. The young man decided to look again, carefully, slowly, without showing any intention. But the moment his eyes shifted toward the corner, he noticed something. The man was no longer looking at him. He was looking at the table, calm, focused, as if nothing had happened, as if the previous moment never existed. That contradiction created a new layer of confusion, because if he truly noticed him before, why ignore him now? A thought slowly formed in the young man's mind. What if this was not observation from one side? What if it was not reader and subject? What if it was something else entirely? A system where both sides are aware, but neither reveals it fully. The idea felt uncomfortable, because it meant one thing: he might not be analyzing a stranger. He might be inside a controlled interaction without realizing it. The waiter returned again. This time, he placed a receipt on the table of the man in the corner. A simple action. Nothing unusual, but the timing felt wrong, almost like it was planned. The man in the corner took the receipt, looked at it briefly, then stood up, slowly, without rush, without hesitation. And for the first time since the beginning, he started walking. The young observer immediately watched him, trying to capture every detail, step by step, movement by movement. But the man did not behave like someone leaving. He behaved like someone completing a sequence: perfect pace, perfect posture, no wasted motion. And then, just before reaching the door, he paused. He didn't turn fully, he didn't speak loudly, he didn't create attention. He simply tilted his head slightly, just enough for the young observer to notice. And then he said, "You're improving." The words stayed in the air for a moment longer than they should have. You're improving. No explanation, no emotion, no context, just a statement, as if it was part of a process already in motion long before today. The young observer felt something shift inside him, not fear exactly, but realization. He was not being tested in the way he thought. He was being guided, trained without permission, observed without awareness, measured without knowing the rules. No trace, no explanation, no confirmation that he was ever there in the first place. Only a faint question left behind. Was he ever just observing people, or was he the one being observed from the very beginning?